Hey, Bryant, welcome back on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Jason. It's good to see you.
Yeah, for the people that don't know who you are, tell us who you are, what you do.
Love it. My name is Bryant Walker. I'm the founder and CEO of Tavo Media Group. We are a growing full service, full scale agency headquartered in San Diego. We've got some team members up in LA and Orange County and scattered around the country. We've got presence in Columbus and Atlanta, and team is growing. We've doubled in size basically every quarter for the last couple of years, which is exciting and scary at the same time.
It is. Well, tell me, why is it scary? I'm just curious.
That's a good question. It's nerve wracking to grow at a pace when you feel like you're maybe losing a little bit of control. And I'm not a control freak. I'm not, but also I'm not a control freak. I want to know what's going on. I'm trying to be very intentional the way I'm growing the brand. And I think the challenges have been, as we were talking about before hitting record, is investing in the right talent. And I think the other part of that is historically I've maybe given too long a leash to the wrong talent, and that gets into right person, right seat, and all that jazz. And I think it's the learning lessons you go along the way. Is you need something done right, you need to get the right person to do the job, and then you do finally get that peace of mind. And it's happening little by little.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the hiring mistakes of putting some of the wrong people in the wrong seats and giving them too much freedom.
Yeah, there's a few instances, and I'll speak to at least a couple with account management, which is critical, and design. And I'll start with design. I went through a hiring process, which I actually like recruiting. The only thing I don't like is how long it takes, and you really do. It is an exercise in patience for sure, and it's very challenging to hire. Reactively, because then it forces you to make the wrong hires. And in one such instance, I was trying to bring on an executive design director, and I ended up getting a bunch of senior designers applying. And the challenge I have with design hires is, you get these beautiful portfolios and look at my Behance profile and look at these projects I worked on, and I worked on Apple and this, that, and the other. And it all looks good, and they speak the language, they talk the talk, they walk the walk. I try to be a bit more involved in the portfolio review process and ask a bit more of like, well, what did you do here? Are you just a production designer, or are you actually leading the charge? Like, what part of this do you own? And I took people at their word. I'm a very trusting person, as I still am. My processes have evolved a little bit in terms of criteria, but I made a couple of hires on the design front, and I let it go. I was very quick to hand off and get out of the way so that I could go back to growing the business. And just seeing time after time, just subpar results with design. I'm seeing things roll off the assembly line, so to speak. And it was just like, what are we doing here, guys? This is not at all the work that I saw in the portfolio. And then, to have people get offended, almost, well, not even almost, getting offended, like, how dare you question my creative? How dare you question my design? I'm like, well, I am paying you, though. There is something there.
Yeah.
And even still, taking 6 months plus to make those corrective actions, I think was definitely a learning lesson. I'm sure plenty of listeners are like, why would you wait 6 months? Because there was enough work going by that was okay to check the box. But it's important to be critical.
So let's dig into that, because
Yeah.
I find a lot of people, they don't fire quick because they realize they have to do this person's job. And
Mhm.
you're already, as an agency owner, you're already maxed out. And you're like, I was talking to one of our mastermind members, and they came to our agency experience. This was last fall.
Mhm.
And they said, hey, I'm putting together a plan to get rid of this one person. We're like, okay, cool. And I thought that they got rid of this person. They just got rid of this person about a week ago. And I literally went to them. I said, well, what made you hold on to them for so long? And
Right.
she was like, well, it would put so much stress on the team and myself. Is that what you found too with the creative? Why you-
100%. I'm afraid to fire. And look, I'm non-confrontational, I think, just by nature. I want to try to make whatever I can engage with, whether that's personal or professional relationships or clients or whatever. I want to try to make it constructive. The challenge with that is, with some personalities you'll run into, is despite your best intentions, anything critical, and some of this is a generational thing, I hate to say, but at least in my experience, it is. Um, so more often than not, there were at least a half dozen instances where I try to take corrective action, have the conversations, and think things were getting better. Inevitably, I had to dive back in and do the work. And you'd think that's enough reason to shit can someone on the spot and be like, I'm done doing your job and paying you to do it. But the reality is, I kept thinking it would get a little better. And eventually, whether that's through biz dev or just organic growth with some of our clients, we'd bring on and grow the staff. But it's a lot of this perpetual chicken before the egg. I've self-funded this whole thing. So, getting back to the hiring reactively or proactively, I'm getting into that now, where I'm hiring some more senior talent ahead of when we actually need it, which stings a little bit, but it's all for the greater good. It's only because I've got the scarred tissue of not doing those things sooner.
What would you do different on that scenario? Like, how could you
I
have
would,
figured out that they weren't right?
yeah.
That's the first question. The second one, what would you have done to get rid of them quicker?
I think it goes back to the hiring process. And let me just ask you, I guess, a pre-qualifier question on that. Do you think it is feasible to have designers do spec work for you for
Yes.
a job? It was a
Yes.
quick answer. Yeah. Oh
Well,
yeah.
so here's how I'm looking for a marketing person right now.
Yeah.
And what I do, and you guys can steal this, Kasim, who was on the interview, he showed me to do this. I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, this is really pretty interesting. So you have to put a bunch of mousetraps out. So when you post a job on Indeed or, God forbid, LinkedIn or wherever, you're going to get
Yeah.
thousands of applications. What these jackasses are doing is going submit, 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 submit. They're not even looking. And
Right.
so what I do on our job posting is at the very bottom, do not apply here. You must email me with the subject line, I read your instructions vividly.
Mm-hmm.
And they must submit under a 4-minute video of why they want to work with us. So immediately, if I get an email, here's my resume, so your post, delete. If it has the subject line, I'm like, okay, I'll read it. If they don't have a video, delete. If they have a video,
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch it. Then what I do is if I like the video, I will reach out to them before I interview them. Hey, Brian, I want you to do a test project for me. I'm willing
Yeah.
to pay you $25 because I don't believe in doing free work. Send me your PayPal email address. Now I'll pay them if they don't get back to me. Cool, they keep the $25, but I don't have to waste my time interviewing them.
We did try that recently. I just hired a new, we've rebranded account management because I had some bad experiences with account management as well. And it was, again, hiring mid-level talent to do more engaged work and expect more than just booking appointments and writing follow-up emails. Like, there's a lot more proactive work that needs to happen to do client service as well. And so we rebranded our account management as the client experience department. And just the change in the nomenclature has positively impacted the culture, because it's setting the bar and the expectation of like, look, this is not, we're not traffic managing here. This is relationship managing. And so, to the point, we hired a new client experience director, i.e. an account director or a senior account, whatever, potato. But again, I think words matter. And so we hired this person. We got narrowed down to 3 individuals. We had them come in and do a mock presentation, which, to be fair, I've done that at least on 3 occasions at other larger agencies. It was never paid for them, but we offered I think a $300 stipend to do the research, do the report. I didn't want just some mock presentation. And there were 2 really strong contenders, but ultimately the thoughtfulness, the presentation, and just the delivery was clutch. The guy that we hired is freaking awesome. And for me, again, trying to get out of the day to day, I was like, finally, I've got that person that can go in and lead a meeting and lead that conversation. I didn't mean to skip over your earlier questions, but to what I would do differently, I think it would be doing that, doing more pre-qualifiers. I am going to steal those ideas of the footer in the ad, because look, we hired, we were recruiting rather for a creative director, and I'm still pivoting on. I'm bringing on a creative director that's more of a storyteller. We ended up going with a VP of creative that's more like 99%, well, 90% designer. He's awesome. And I've worked with them at some other agencies on a bunch of other projects. But before that, and this is over the course of probably 4 months, maybe 5, I was recruiting for a creative director. And we posted the ad on LinkedIn, and I did not do the little criteria and the mouse traps around the web. Sorry, I thought my notifications were turned off. But in any case, we said I interviewed 50 people, which is way too many already, but we got 850 applicants. And that was maybe after having the ad up on LinkedIn for 30 days. And I had pre-qualifier questions on there, quite a few. And the crazy thing about it, to your point earlier, half these people have no business applying.
No.
And so it just fills up our inbox, and it took up so much time. And again, back to the notion of recruiting reactively is so like painstaking. For once I was trying to be proactive with it, and it was just biting me in the ass because I didn't do the footwork into putting all this stuff out there and doing it with a stronger criteria.
Yeah, and I always tell everybody, you got to be actively always recruiting, even if you're not hiring, and just building that database. One of our members, Jack, I love what he does. Is for every job posting, he creates its own page and treats it like a sales letter. Like, here's about what's working with us. Like, if you go to our go to agencymastery360.com and go to /careers and then click on the marketing manager, you'll see a video from me too of going, hey, here's the team. And it's like, here's the type of culture we have. My team is going to do pranks on me and just make fun of me all day long.
Yeah.
If you like that kind of stuff, great. Right? Like, it gives you that vibe of what we're going to do. And then one of the things before I hire them, but after, like, I'll have an interview. So when I have an interview with someone, I'm more of judging them. Will the culture, and do I see the team working with them well? And then in order to see if they're going to work out, I always have them. And whenever I've skipped this step, it's always bit me in the ass. I always have them do a 90-day success plan. So I leave it open-ended for them. I say, all right, Bryant, I'd love to hire you. But before, I want to know, what would you treat as a success in 90 days? And what does your plan look like in order to get there? And they have to present that to me. And surprise, surprise, this is how I measure them. Because in 90 days, the first 90 days, they're not going to have any impact on the business. But what you can do is you can track their activity based on the plan. And if they're missing that, get fucking rid of them. Like, gone. Because how many times, like, I've done this. I know you've probably done this as well. Oh, you get 6 months into it. Well, I've already invested this time. Might as well. Maybe they're almost there. Maybe, like, if I a little bit, they'll be there. And then a year goes by. You have a bunch of fucking idiots running around, and they're never fixed. Like, and within the first 30 days to get rid of them.
100%. And what I learned, and this the hard way, truly, is, look, the team was growing. We're bringing on new clients. Our biggest clients were growing as well. Our business moves at a breakneck speed, and increasingly so the bigger the business gets. And so what feels like, oh, let's just give them another month, like, before you know it, it's like 3 months has gone by. And the worst part about it is not that they stayed, but that attitude and their behavior and their work ethic, it brings everything else down. And that sucks. And it's like, you can't fix that. You can. It takes way more work to fix it than it does to bring it down by someone passively just bringing that mojo down. And it affects the work. It affects it affects everything. I mean, I know I'm speaking in, like, obvious, like, people management terms here, but, like, you got to learn it yourself. And I think for me, coming at this as, like, a doer and a generalist, someone that does a little bit of everything, I'm always gonna fix it, and I'm trying to workshop that, but I can't do that effectively. I don't have the right people to take the baton and run with it.
Well, and it puts you in a place where you don't enjoy the agency anymore, because you're having to put out fires you probably shouldn't have to, or doing things that you don't want to do anymore. But honestly, I can say I've never been so much, like, the past couple of years, I've been so excited about just building our team and working with the team, right? Like, and I look at it as, I work for Darby, I work for Stacy, I work for Jody, I work for Anna. I work for them like it's it's just so much fun, doing this stuff with them versus, could I do it all myself? Sure, but it's not that fun. Like,
No.
and it's not rewarding. And so when you can start eliminating that, that's what we're trying to do on the marketing. I'm like, I don't really like marketing anymore. Like, and you're always getting, people are always giving us bad marketing advice, like show this, show this. I'm like, that's icky. Like, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's tricky too, and like our marketing is something that's it's seriously lacking, and I feel like I get a lot of other colleagues and friends and former coworkers that now work at other agencies or run their own shops, and they go, "Why are you hiring people? Just get 1099s. You don't need the liability. You don't need the expense." And the truth is, I've never paid myself less than I do now, but I've never taken more pride in the work and in growing this thing than I do now. And the reality is, like, I've invested in the team. I've invested in this core crew that believes in it as much, if not more than I do. And the difference is evident in the work that's being put out. And it's being done at, in a faster pace, and people enjoy what they're doing. And it's like, not to sound weird about it, it's kind of magical. After doing it wrong for so long, it
Yeah.
does feel like, oh, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Things are actually working.
Well, I always tell everybody, they always think, I ask them, if I had a blank check and I gave you this blank check for your agency, what would you do?
Yeah.
Or I go, what's your number? And they think of a number, and then I always ask, and then what? So what? Like, so you can do what? And they're like, oh, so I can relax. Oh, so I can take off Fridays. Or so I can tell that person that never believed in me to go fuck off. I'm like, well, all right, let's kind of break this down a little bit. If you hired one person or you fix this one little thing, could you take Fridays off? Yeah. Okay. How long have you been in business? 10 years. You're a woman-owned business? Look up those percentage. You can go tell those people to go fuck off.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think so many people are going after the wrong things. It's
Mhm.
about, it's not about the end destination. It's about, if you can create, like, our goal for the past year, and we'll be continue to do this, is to take half of our mastermind members and double their EBITDA while working 25% less. That's it. We don't have a revenue goal. We don't
Yeah.
care about that. It's
Mhm.
literally going, all right, we want to connect these amazing people together. We want to help them in however we can, not just get to the end goal so they can sell, but love what they're doing again and get rid of all the shit they don't like anymore and have
Mhm.
an amazing team that they trust. Like, Duncan, he just got back. He was touring around Spain. He sent me a picture of him and his family, like, toured around for a month.
That's so
And
amazing.
and his and he came back and the agency grew faster. Like,
Mhm.
that's what you all should be striving after and
Yeah.
making decisions based on that versus, so I can sell for $10 billion.
A big pivot for us happened, and also for me mentally in my mindset of, again, coming from that freelancer mentality of like, I'm just going to do it. I can bootstrap this as long as I need to. It's just like, then the growth is just this like, like slow crawling, now we're kind of at this hockey stick inflection, not necessarily with revenue as much as we are just with output and resources. Our bench is deep. Like, we can do a lot more stuff than we could do a few months ago. I'm in a Vistage group, and I got introduced to EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System, about a year ago. Are you familiar with it?
Yep.
So I get introduced to EOS, and it's really more of like an organizational framework. And as my understanding, and I don't want to do it any disservice, but for EOS to work well, it works for companies of roughly 10 to about 250 employees is where I understand it kind of caps out, or at least you can compartmentalize beyond that. And so for me, I was like, well, shoot, I don't know what I don't know, and I keep relearning that one. It'd be nice to have an operating system that's sort of tried and true, and it does force in some of these accountability measures. So a lot of things that we're talking about, right, with tracking employees and tracking them. Where are you? But 30-day success plans, 90-day success
Stalking
plans.
your employees. That's what you
Yeah,
meant.
yeah. I see you. But seeing where they are on the road to success, because their success is our success. And, again, sounds cliche and whatever, but the reality is I want them to feel like this is their shop to help build. And we're not like officially an ESOP or anything like that yet. But again, this framework of EOS has really helped me structure these things with a bit more intention. The beginning of the year is when we first kicked this thing off. And we identified through this accountability chart, which is kind of like an org chart, but a little bit different. We wrote this thing out and everything rolls up to me. So if I'm the single point of failure, it's impossible for us to scale. And so we broke it down. Like we had like 7 or 8 salespeople beginning of last year. You know how many deals those 7 or 8 salespeople closed over the course of the 6 months I had them on the team?
Wait, let me guess.
Egg.
0.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I should have let that one up. I didn't really leave that up to chance. So I was I had some scar tissue of bringing on a head of sales because I invested heavily into sales and no one was selling it like I could sell it. We still grew. We added an extra 100, 150K in MRR during that same 6-month time frame. I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to do it myself. Right.
Do you want to know why they probably didn't sell?
What's that?
Do you want to know one of the number one reasons why the owner in a lot of cases thinks they can sell better than the others?
Why?
Because you have all the stories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If you
got the war stories.
Think about it this way. I always tell people, if you create your success story tackle box, think of your framework, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our framework for scaling an agency is attract, convert, scale, so you can have the opportunity to sell. So we have 4 columns.
Yeah.
And so when, Jack has a success story about doing his foot in the door, cool, he goes and convert. And we have a story there. Or when, Duncan's able to take off for a month, he goes into the scale category. Or when Justin sells for gazillion dollars, goes in there. And then what I do with the salespeople is I share a story once a day and I make sure that they understand the story. So then they can go, just like I'm doing in this podcast.
Yeah.
So hey, Bryant, hey man, I totally understand about bringing on these salespeople and they're not working, right? Well, you know what Chris did? He created his tackle box and then he shared stories and eventually they built their own stories.
I like that. That's a great tactic. I mean, it daily might be a bit taxing, but I think I could at least do like a weekly story time and everyone gather around for story time, but work it into the day to day.
What you need to do, salespeople in the very beginning need a lot of hand holding, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have to set them up for success in the beginning of the day. And then at the end of the day, you got to figure out, you got to build them back up because they've been crushed. They've been told no a bunch, right? And so, and I would always, like once a week, I would say, hey, I want you to send me your best sales call, your medium sales call, and your worst sales call. I want to watch these recordings. And then I would debrief like the military would in like a military operation going, all right, Darby, this is what I would have done different here. Or, hey, do more of this. This was really good. This got the prospect to really kind of take note and like kind of go, ooh, that's kind of interesting. And then you can dive more into it. Yeah. And you're constantly doing that. And within 2 months, and based on the activity, like within 30 days, a salesperson's going to work out or not. But, it'd take them maybe 60, 90 days to get up to speed. And then you're not needed. And they're way better than you.
I mean, it's the promised land. I was going to say, as far as the scar tissue with the sales, I did finally get out of the way. And part of this whole EOS framework is it kind of put me back into this mode that I'm kind of enjoying right now, which is my fuck it, let's do it mode. And that's become, at least internally, my mantra, as long as my kids aren't around somewhere. But, it's like, fuck it, let's do it, because at the end of the day, I look back the last couple of years and the moments that give me the most strain, I guess, just thinking about like, God, what could I have done better or differently? It goes back to like, well, it's the things I didn't do. It's like the length and how much time it took me to make that decision, pull the trigger. So we hired a VP of sales. We interviewed quick. We were very specific with the criteria. We had them do a mock presentation and hired on a new VP of sales and partnerships who's a freaking rock star. Hired on a BDR, same thing. And he's kicking ass right now, making phone calls across the office. And it's really rad to see these things finally materialize because I'm just like, let's do it. And we've got the 30 days and the 90 days and like, let's plan what success looks like for you and for the company. And hopefully you hope that it aligns, but if not, at least we have some rudimentary processes that we didn't have a few months ago to weed these things out before they become a problem.
Well, indecision is the worst decision. I rather make, there's 2 outcomes to every decision. You either win or you learn. That's how I always looked at it. of going, all right, you just got to make sure you keep learning
Yeah.
on you don't keep making this same mistake and like, oh, I didn't, this
Right.
employee sucked because I didn't have to do a 90-day plan. Oh, that won't happen again. Let me just go do that again. And I've done that. But I think why we've always had success in most people's eyes is just because we make quick decisions and we go execute it and going, well, that worked or that didn't work. Okay, no problem. Let's go try it again. But the people that, oh, it's not the right time to do this. It's never going to be the right time to do whatever. Like you're never going to have it just a perfect scenario sitting in front of you. There's always going to be shit to do. There's always going to be, you know, a possibility that you're going to learn from it. It's not
Yeah.
going to be successful, but go try it out. Like, just go do it. Like, I get so frustrated when people, they just don't pull the trigger. I'm not saying like working with us or whatever. I'm just like pulling the trigger on this employee that they need, or go testing this part out, or whatever it is. I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, you need help. You know, you need to make a change. Just go try it out. Like, stop farting around.
I'm definitely more in a yes mode right now, but something you said reminded me, saying no is also just as powerful. And
Hmm.
back to the notion that you brought up of, indecision is the worst decision. Saying no is also okay. And
Yeah.
and I am getting better at saying no to the things that I would normally say yes to when it comes to working in the business, so that I can spend more time saying yes to things that are on the business and keeping those two lanes very intentionally separate so that I can keep growing the business. And I don't, I've got very specific growth goals. They're aggressive, but otherwise, why wouldn't they be? Like, why are we doing this if we're not trying to grow something? So
Yeah.
it's helpful.
Yeah, the most things that I say no to are ones to protect my time. If you look at the most
Mhm.
successful people, they're very guarded with their time. They have rules around it, right? Like my rule is for Fridays, we don't ever do any work on Fridays. It's Epic Friday. Go do something epic, right? Like
I
I
love
have a
that.
rule. I don't break
Yeah.
that rule, right? And then like I have set times when I work. Like for the most cases, like I keep to that, but the Fridays are like they're a law. Same thing with
Mhm.
Saturdays and Sundays. But when it comes to Monday through Thursday, okay, cool. Like we have more freedom there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gotta, if you say yes to everything, it's good in the very beginning, and then like you said, in the later on, you're just like, crap, man, I'm doing how many businesses, and
What have I done?
I have all these wrong clients. Like, oh, but well, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise and being transparent and honest with us, right? Like I think a lot of people have gone through this and they'll be like, well, that makes me feel better. And hopefully
Right.
we provided them some solutions that you can go execute. Just remember, everybody, your time is your most important. Surround yourself with the right people. And if you want to be around some amazing agency owners, I'd love for you all to give us 45 minutes. Let's chat, see where you're going, where you're at, what your biggest problem is, and if our community can help you out, we'll tell you. If they can't, we'll point you in the right direction. So go to agencymastery360.com and then click on the little scale button, and we'll chat for 45 minutes, see if we can help you out. Until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it